Greetings everyone, it's Lodrik and this is the game War in the Pacific Admits Edition. This is my play-by-email match against Xargun. And yeah, I play the Japanese side. This is game version 26B and scenario 1. And this is now the special episode about the status of the game based on 19th May 42. So this turn I can talk about everything what I will normally not mention in the daily turn. And yeah, I can maybe start with some numbers and statistics here in game. We can see that the win ratio is now 31 to 5.6 roughly. So still increasing roughly in direction 6 to 1, but I think I have not more much time to really increase the number. Somewhere in July, I think it will turn around, and then the ratio will drop. So best case, I can reach 6 to 1, and then it's over. But 6 to 1, I would say, is still the best possible really way in the game. If you be better than 6 to 1, then the allies have lost, or something is really wrong here. So this last turn there was not much air activity, but we can also see the total numbers. Maybe first for the Japanese. There was not too much air activity in the last turns, but we coming closer to a kill ratio of 1 to 1, 581 to 589, so this is 1 to 1. For me it's still army bombers. You can see twin engine, 1 engine, 1 engine. So the first 4 is all army bombers. The twin engine bombers are all better and useful. The 1 engine bombers are temporary. They're outdated. I will never produce them. Not really in quantity. This Key 30 I produce, but only to replace other lost airframes. Because I have the engines anyway, so I only consume stockpiled engines. And this is more army. You can see the key is normally all army stuff. So I lost most of my airplanes are related to army pilots, and this is normally good because for the Japanese, army pilots are much easier to replace. They also don't require often so much training. But I mean, if you want to have good pilots, you must always train them well. So and then the Navy only lost some zeros, and the rest is already small stuff. I think there was not really much of a change. So that is typical. You can also see that 60, 70, 80, roughly maybe 80 to 90 pilots or airframes gets killed by flak. This is always related to Bendering, Singapore, maybe also a little Clark or something like this. What you want to. So there's no air. So this is Japan. For the Allies, it is, I would say, more fighter equipment getting destroyed. There's of course Hudson's one. This is similar to a Key 21. Twin engine medium bomber. P-40 Warhawks, Buffaloes fighters, P-39s fighters, Kitty Hawks. This is also P-40s. Fighters, Hurricane fighter. This is a twin engine bomber, P-40s. So you also can see very clearly that these are all army pilots. I mean, of course, the Allies have much more nations, but I don't see here a lot of Navy pilots getting destroyed. So, this is Navy, this is Catalinas, but where are the... These are British Buffaloes, so I cannot check here for nations, so I don't really see any carrier wings. Okay, here, F4, F3 Wildcats. This is carrier airplanes, but all the rest, no. So there was really not. I think there was only one carrier airstrike from the Allies so far. crippling one of my battle cruisers, well, damaging. So yeah, Xargun holding back his carrier fleet, and using mainly army pilots. And I was able to kill many of his fighters, and I lost many of my bombers, but I would say a third of my bombers was lost to flak. Good. So much for air power. There's no air group lost for me. Good. Reinforcements, I think it's not really super important, but I can check it. There's not more much coming. You can. This is now Air Force reinforcements. There's some stuff coming. Some fighters, some dive bombers, some other small equipment. Most important is maybe always if they are locked or not locked. If they're locked, then I will use them for training. If they're not locked, I can maybe use them somewhere if I ever have the capacity. Like this one is open, free to use. And 36 is a good striking force. If the numbers are very small, then often I will maybe use them like 12. Air wing with 12. I mean, this is a detachment, so often you can put them together. So you can see here 26, 26, 26. They all belongs together to make one big air wing. That is okay. But if it's really an independent small air wing with 12, I will maybe often use them for training or for sub hunting. I think nothing else really is. And yeah, this is already November. You can see there's really not much coming this year. Some air wings, but this is Navy dive bomber, Army bomber, Army bomber. This is this big Army bomber wing. There's a fighter wing for the Army. This is also Army bombers, Army fighters, Army bombers. So this is 90% Army equipment. Then not really too much coming more. Only good thing is I also don't have to call back too much. I must have here this one big torpedo bomber training wing in Tokyo. I have to call back. And this one bomber wing. That is all. Then it's already December 42. Good. This is, I think, not so important. Top pilots. I have a lot of pilots with some kills, but nothing really crazy here. So a lot of 1 kills, some 2 kills, but very little 3 and 4. Well, maybe if the Allies starting their bombing campaign. But I can have, I don't know if it's necessary. No. But you can see I have here 65 and 105. So in total this is 170 pilots. I don't know if it's really 170 pilots here. Have a kill. Okay. Then you could also check how many have good experience. But you can see I have maybe roughly 20, 40, 50, 60 elite pilots here. But again, this must be elite pilot plus a kill, then he will show up here. I have also many pilots with less experience to have a kill, or even 2 or 3. Replacements. Very interesting, but I pull out most of my Navy pilots. You can see there's nothing more pull. And the last and second last training class is also empty, and the second training class is roughly at 50%. So you can see there's only 60, the 700 pilots are still in school. After this, I think it's over. Then I cannot pull more out. This is the maximum I have left. And these pilots have nearly no skills. So I get 150 per month new to school, but yeah. You can also turn this around and say, okay, where are all my pilots? They're all on the map. For the army, it's not so good. It's not possible for the army to really call so many pilots to the map, not this early. But yeah, there's still some in pool waiting. My reserve pool, not much. Everything is really on the map. So I have also not a ton of wounded pilots. I retire never any pilot. So I have these two guys, they are dead, more or less. You cannot get them ready more. So, but these are only two wounded pilots. All other wounded pilots are already back or will be back sooner or later. So this means that I have really lost not too many pilots. So out of the 33, 31 will be back. 15 missing in action and 244 are really killed. So I don't really have many pilots coming back because they're missing in action. This is nearly very 20%, 30% chance that they come back. Here's the opposite, only 20-30% chance I think that they are not coming back. So I lost 244, let's say I lost 260 pilots in total, worst case. 260 pilots for 6 months war. That is acceptable, I would say, and for sure it will get more worse in the future. But I can get 150 Navy pilots per day, per month, plus 200, plus 185 from the army. So if you put this together, I can get roughly 35 pilots per month. I could replace in together. So this is why I really try to use army pilots much more than navy pilots, because I have more pool, and secondly I can really replace on monthly basis much easier than pilots. Good. Enough for this. Ship sinking or sank this last turns or ever. For Japan, still the most important ships sunk. These are these two AMCs. This was his successful airstrike with his carriers. A big tanker, one good cargo ship, and some other smaller cargo ships. I also lost one fleet submarine with 8 points and a smaller fleet submarine with 6 points. Plus 2... Where are my destroyers? I thought they are... Oh yeah, here are the 2 destroyers, yes. So 2 submarines I'm missing, 2 destroyers I'm missing, and 2 AMCs plus 1 tanker. I will roughly say some cargo ships are always lost. This small cargo ships doesn't matter. Short range submarines doesn't matter. And this is always small stuff. Okay. And the Allies, there was not really anything in the last days. So, but there's maybe some updated information now, so I'd show it again. There's only really a heavy cruiser, a light cruiser, some other equipment, some tankers. SST, submarine transport. I don't know why this ship is 30. I don't know. I think it's maybe a bug, but I cannot believe that a submarine has 30 points value. And other support equipment, other light cruiser, more tankers, some APs, some good APs, more tankers, APs. So I was able to cripple the Allied tanker and AP fleet, not much real fighting force. So this means, of course I sunk some submarines, but this is all early to my leader strike. Some submarines more here and some destroyers, but nothing really important, I would say. The biggest blow was against Xargun's tanker and AP fleet. Good. Because we are at ships, I can better first make the ships. Shipbuilding program. And what is coming, you can see that is always based on on this date, but because I speed up the production, this will still change. But you can say, based on this calculation, if I would run it now with normal speed, the ships will arrive in this date. Let's say this is how the game calculated. So I will only get here one light cruiser, light carrier this early, this year still for sure. The rest is maybe all 43. Escort carriers, there's one escort carrier coming, the others, not more coming too much. But I push them, I push all the carriers. Of course, Shiano I kick out. You can see is always the cost, the number is more or less the cost of points on normal per day. And I have a production of 100, my production is 1384. So if I produce this carrier, it costs me more than 11% maybe of my total output of shipbuilding points per day. One carrier, and this carrier is really not worth it. It's not good. This is merchant shipyard. You can always check it here. Then you can see what is active. But this is merchant shipping. This is marine. Navy. 2 battleships, both on hold. This is related to. I found out, or I realized that it makes no sense for me to build this ship with this update or with this equipment. This is the first equipment without radar. And there's an upgrade coming in, I think, March 43. So I better try to finish the ships in March 43, and then I put them immediately in shipyard to finish the upgrade, and then they have radar. And I think this will change a lot for this kind of ship. So before March, I don't need them to finish, and I can save the points because they are super expensive to build. Like cruisers, I built them because then if I'm done with this, I can focus on their battleships. Destroyers, always push destroyers. APDs, there's not much to push because they're all late. Next problem is that they're really not the best ships, even if you can build them. They are escort ships and nothing more. The problem is that this kind of ship, even if I go to the last in the line of 45, they only get this upgrade. There's nothing better coming. And there's no radar. They're getting the Type 2 depth chargers, okay. This means they can fight with a submarine on surface, and they also can hunt for it. Anti-aircraft equipment is just so. The speed is for escort okay, but nothing more. But there's no radar. And this is really a limitation. So for night engagement with submarines, not good. Daytime, early warning for airstrikes, nothing. And victory 9 is high. If this is now, but the important point is that they are cheap with 8 points. But if you compare this with the late Japanese destroyers, this one is only a price of 6, so they're cheaper, they're faster, and they have radar and they have much better equipment. So I would normally say, forget the APDs and give me more of this kind of second class destroyers. These destroyers are okay. They are of course not the top class destroyers what the Japanese built before, but these are cheap destroyers. Anyway, cannot change. So submarines, I only build a minimum amount to more or less consume my points. Submarines are the buffer. If I have points left over, I use them to build here the submarines. If I don't have points left, or if I must save points, then I will normally stop the submarines. Because submarines are really, in the long run, nothing that Japan can rely on. Goodie. And this is all. And with the merchant shipyard, because there's always a question what we really want to do with this. Of course, push the escort carriers, but after this, the question is, okay, maybe some auxiliary ships. There's one AMC. That is fine. Why not? I could push this. Or I can push some tankers. So I push some. Or AOs. Okay, but there are not many AOs. Or APDs. I push them all. It's up to you. But there's not really much to push. So, choose what you really think is the most important. Good, so much for ships. And for army, yes. For Japan, Some army equipment is coming. This is related to the first and second army, or the first and second tank division for the Japanese. This is coming. This I must maybe create. Then there's some HQ stuff, and after that we get really only some small support here and there. And first at September of 42, there's a big bunch of garrison units. And again, this kind of stuff I would say is to hold something, not to attack. These units have no real training. They have the basic training done. And yeah, but you can train this kind of units without combat, with only training mode, I think up to 55. So you can get something out of them, even if there's no battle. But then, yeah. And other stuff is, yeah, this is already end of the year here. So you can see this, not too much more coming. But this will help for sure. But this is September, so up to end of September I must hold my line. And in October I can ship this unit out to the destinations I believe Xargun will strike back. If Xargun strike back faster and I have nothing there, then yeah, it's lost. Good. There was one unit I think destroyed so far only, but I call it or buy it back. I think this was a Navy Guard unit. And this is all. Yeah, so much for the standard stuff here. Industry-wide, or yeah, resources, because I'm already here in the home islands. I have still, there was some submarines, so I stopped the shipping of oil, but I have, you know, roughly 50% load capacity, because this is 30, so I can load 30,000 crude oil in this base. So I must sooner or later ship the oil back to Japan, or the tanks are full and then it's not more producing. The resources, there's unlimited, so you could normally wait here 1 year before you ship them out, but make no sense. So I increase the port to maximum capacity and then I ship here what is possible and resources first to this port, and then it will transfer down the road by rail, and then I transport this to Ominato. You can also, of course, ship it all down, but yeah. I have here a port 4, I have here a port 4, and that's fine. Well, I also had here some much more higher stock before, 600,000, 700,000, but I was able to now reduce this because I use more or less 3 ports. I ship out of Sapporo. I also use this port. I'm still building up to level 4. This is more or less the normal price. If it's over the standard number, then you pay, I think, double and triple and 4 times the price, I think, in supplies. So I ship here what I can to Ominato, that I have all my resources at the home islands, simply because this island is more or less independent. This is independent. There's no road or rail. But this also means this is connected. This is all the same because there's a road and a rail system. So you really only have this big island, and then you have a smaller North Island and the independent island with Russia together. Or is this island? Yeah, it's an island. Yeah. Good, so, and because I ship all the resources, there's a situation in Tokyo, and Tokyo is always the only stuff I really care, because it's automatically tell me everything else. I have enough crude oil in Japan, I have enough resources. Of course, I like to have here more than 1 million resources, but this is related to my big increase of industry power in Japan. I start in the December of the game. So I have to really ship a lot of resources non-stop, and every moment I stop shipping resources for some time, it can change fast. So, but it's increasing slowly. And yeah, supplies, I try to wait always to get 100,000 supplies, and then I make the next convoy. So I had some convoys going out the last weeks, so waiting here, but I can make 10,000 supplies at least per day. So maybe 2 days only I can prepare the next convoy. And if I make 2 convoys per day, per week, going out of Japan to supply my front, I think this is okay. But it needs still time. It just starts. I think 1 month ago I was really ready to ship out supplies. So first in beginning of May or mid of April I was able to ship out supplies to frontline, and before I had many locations starving, and there are still locations starving. So some ships, not much. I'm still waiting. I also convert some of my Lima class. Lima class, I think, is the most important cargo ship the Japanese have. So keep them better protected and don't waste them. First, they're very expensive, and you can convert them to this AKA. And if I remember correctly, this AKA is the only one can rearm Yamato 18-inch shells. That is related, I think, to the cargo capacity. So, but you can also convert them to, let me think, I think they're here. Yeah. The other good job of a Lima is this AKV. Because they have long range, I think speed is not so important. So this is normally the two kind of stuff I convert all Limas to AKV or AKE. And yeah. Then you have always this tanker stuff. Every cargo ship is 5,800 range, sent to some port here at Home Island. Wait, in June I can change them here in June 42 to a tanker. And then it will be a so-so tanker, but it's okay. Nearly 3,000 load capacity. And the other big change is, let me check where they are. They're here. Yeah. Lima class is more or less for this kind of active transport stuff. And the other big important ship is normally this Husimi class ships. I convert them all to repair ships. This is more or less the smallest ship you can convert to a repair ship. And because a repair ship size doesn't matter. So it makes no sense. There's also big ships you can convert to a repair ship, but it will not really change anything. A repair ship is a repair ship in this game. So far, at least, I understand it. So size doesn't matter. So I use the smallest ship. But you must convert them early on or as fast as possible, because you have 1 year time to rebuild these ships. So first in 43 I will ever have them. So up to now I have only 2 original repair ships in the map. And yeah, let's hope that I can get them done. And the 2 anti-aircraft cruisers are also 80 days still away, but then I have this kind of ship. And then you can see in April 43 I get this upgrade with some radar, the first air radar. This will help me, and this also give the cruisers capability to hunt submarines in deep water. Yeah, it's like cruiser, I don't know if you really want to do this, but okay. Anyway, this is, I think, the most important for the ships. Tankers, ammunition ships, repair ships, and yeah. Good, so much for Japan. The rest is always fine. Of course, I have a lot of stuff arriving in Fusan. I transport, I don't know how many tons of resources on a daily basis from Fusan to Japan. You can see I have more or less here a load capacity of 128,000 tons, ship dock tons. So I roughly say, I don't know if you can really load 100,000 supplies per day, but some stuff around this. So I have many task forces on automatic continuous supply, and they are loading non-stop resources and unloading them on the other side. Here's a port even bigger with 200,000 tons. So it's really only the limitation is Fusan with dock capacity. But 100,000 supplies every day or every second day, I think, will help Japan. And on the other side, there are also resources coming from this side. This is more or less everything how I feed Japan. Fusan and from the north. There are sometimes special convoys coming back from far location like Truk or somewhere else, but this is once per month. So I really use only this and this supply line for resources. The only smaller mistake was that I maybe empty Port Arthur a little too much with crude oil. I completely ship out all the crude oil and more or less nearly all of my resources. Now this port have a little issue to call in crude oil. Yeah, but I hope it will fix over time. China is stable. I have more or less some air bases in Xi'an, Kaifeng, Hankow, and Changsha is also finished now. There's an Airbase 8, and I will also build here one more Airbase 8. And yeah, I think this is enough. So I could normally Xi'an and this location plus Changsha is now, I think, the best. Maybe the 3 locations I will use in the future for my Air Force. The other airfields are all in the range, but I don't really need them more. And I think 3 air bases are enough to strike any leftover base the Chinese have. I really don't need to push here anything else more. So, yeah. The supply situation was a little critical, but I get now slowly more supplies to the locations I need them. Still have to kill here 2, 6, 7 units, and this 2 maybe also. I don't know what this 3 will do. Maybe the callback. I don't know. But yeah, and I must get rid of the Wenchao army. But this is the only question of time. I still have no one in Wenchao and losing here every week 2 or 3 points, but maybe sooner or later I can put some garrison here with 120 points. Well, where I get them, I don't know. I have all my bases more or less empty or at the lower point. Maybe out of Shanghai I could call some, but I really try to operate everything at the lower end or at the minimum or bare 10% under you can go without problems. 20% under you will get sometimes the hit. So you can see that I keep it at the bare minimum. And you must invest a lot of time if you really want to get this done. Good. Yeah, Canton, I have still also some aircraft here, but it's only more training base. Training. Maybe I can also show you. No, training is here in Mukde. So I have here a lot of aircraft training, and you can see. And with the army, I use the max capacity of pilots because I cannot increase the size of my air wings. And then I train them normally in different ways. So first, if the pilot is new, I train them on ground combat that they're at 70, 69, 70 around. Then I will switch them over to Navy bombardment, normal Navy bombardment. Then I will reach the defense value of 70, and then the pilot is done and will go to pool. Then I start again the same. I don't need to get the Navy bombardment to 70 or something like this. This would only be side effect. But I get roughly 70, 70, 60, and here is also something between 60 and 70. So 1 week more and then this is maybe done. So yeah. And if I have a Navy bombardment skill of 60, I think it's okay to hit something. Maybe. Other option would be not Navy bombardment, maybe go for sub-hunting. And pilots is similar, or more or less. I train air, done 70, then I switch them to Navy bombardment, and then this is defense also finished, and then the pilot's done. So you can see here, this air wing is already, air is done, defense is still coming slowly, but of course if you come close to 70 it's much more. unlikely to hit. But I can get the Navy bomber, but higher, and also the experience is increasing. So that if I get the experience at least at 60, I think it's okay. And this you can do with many pilots or whatever you want. And yeah, what else I can say? So nothing really here to show. I have Rangoon is fine. There's resources. I have resources now. Resources and supplies. I mean, I don't have any fuel problem because I have here the refinery and the crude oil. In Rangoon, there's also a refinery. So the 300 crude oil I produce, I also convert here to fuel. So I never must ship here fuel, but I must ship supplies. It's not enough to feed the whole army here and the Air Force. But yeah, depending of course on the activity here. But there's only 40 light industry. That will only produce 40 supplies. And there's nothing else. So this Rangoon really don't have a lot of industry. You have a little resources, so you don't need to produce or import resources, but you have more or less this 300 supplies from the refineries and 40 from the light industry. This is not enough to feed everyone. And the Air Force is here, okay. Well, the pilots are ready to fight. They're nothing special, but they are ready. They're 70, 70, 70. Here again, 70, 65. And I have 2 air wings to protect my oil here, plus some flak. And same with Rangoon. But I more or less wait for some activity from the Allied side, so I really can act on something. I also have still some Air Force here back in Bangkok, simply to be ready to transfer them to where I need them. And train my pilots if they have nothing else to do, to be good in everything. Dive bombers. You have this kind of air wings. I don't know what else you want to do. This is only for training. They're too small for anything else, and they are first changing the size in December, so not much to do. But pilots, I train here more and more fighter pilots, more and more. So they're getting better and better and better. And if Xargun is coming with his 4-engine bombers, then I can try to intercept them. And I also still use a 1A, but only for training all the time. But it's training, why not? I can train with Key 27, but I can also train with the Oscar 1A. It doesn't matter. And a lot of training airplanes. Transport airplanes on training. But they are all done already, so I change them now to general training. Because they have over transported 70, you cannot go much higher. So with this, more or less, it will increase the defense value and give experience. I don't need to train 200 training transport pilots. So I could, and you can only train with this airframe transport or general training. So very limited here. Here's nothing more. So I have still also a base in Singapore. There's still some other pilots training. Some are new, shift them around. These are guys training on torpedoes, and then maybe I will also go for Navy bombardment. Sometimes you must change or exchange the pilots, yeah. But and of course there's other equipment here to train Navy search. This guy is on 9 because I can cut him down to 3 times 3. Then I can maybe replace some cruiser wings. And this is my roof fighter. It's on 22, but he's going for 26. Because I will put him on a scout cruiser with a capacity of 20. And then you can go plus 10%, so 22. And with this airframe, I also have a limitation. You cannot make Navy strike with this. I don't know why, but it's the game. So I train this pilot now on sub hunting, because air wing or air skill is 70. So, but I won't get the defense up. So the only real good option is for me patrol. I could make something else like recon or Navy search, but no. and more training. Singapore itself looks fine. A lot of ships are here in port waiting for some activity, but I really don't have anything to do with these ships now. Not immediately. I have here 1 million tons of resources, but these resources more or less will automatically flow to direction Korea. Maybe if I have really nothing to do, I will make a big convoy and ship here 1 million tons of resources simply because I can do it back to Japan. But up to now I wait, and the resources will arrive in Korea sooner or later. I only ship faster resources to Singapore than they disappear. And you have here a resource center from this base, 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 and from this base. They're all going back to Singapore. Always you don't need a big amount of ships, but I have here single ships or 2 ships, or no, this is a special convoy, but this guy, it's a small ship. So I have for every base 1 or 2 of these small single ships, and if there's no submarines, they can operate for a long time. Later, if there's ever any allied ships coming or submarines back, then I maybe change it. But up to now, I can make it very cheap and efficient, so that I have in the base between 5 and 10,000 on stock, but not much more. If I see that the base is stockpiling more than 10,000, I will maybe make a special convoy to empty the base once. And I get here resources out simply because I think they flow here. I don't know why. We normally have no demand for this, but I will see. If I once get all of the resources out of this base, maybe no more will come. The problem is that Palembang have a lot of resources, 100,000, and the port is really small. On top of this, you have this unlimited fuel issue. And not only fuel, I also have a lot of oil I must take out. So the port of Palembang is always overloaded. This means I use this mini port, and Medan, of course, the same. But this is also port of 4, you cannot get more. And you have similar situation, oil and fuel plus resources you have to ship. This stuff I ship normally to Georgetown, the resources, and oil, and the fuel will go to feed Ceylon. Makes sense. Burma need no fuel. Port Blair, Ceylon will be supplied by Medan. Palembang can support Australia, let's say Australia. Java is independent because it produces its own oil, but not much more. So Tarakan and Balikpapan plus Miri. Well, Miri I use normally for Philippines and other stuff. It's not so much so far, maybe later. But at the end, these 3 bases from Borneo can maybe feed the New Caledonian, Suva, Truk, Rabaul area, Southeast Pacific. But maybe east coast of Australia, depending on where you have your ships, let's say this. Good, first, a short look at Ceylon. Nothing else here to see. I'm waiting to get here 1 week more, then I can finish this stuff. Then I must really transport the 2 ships to Colombo. In Colombo, I'm waiting more or less to finish the battleship, 3 days, and I can get this battleship done, and then I will maybe transfer all my units, what is not needed, out. Because I don't need a fleet Ceylon now. It's only risky to keep them here at the frontline base. I can better keep them maybe at Port Blair or even back to Singapore, or Rangoon is also not so safe. But not at the front line. I better react to activity and not be surprised. And I also will call this all back to a location where I guess soon something will happen, because this is more okay, let's say this. I need also to get rid of Bendoing, but this is a question of time. Supplies are here, but supplies are needed. This is important resource base. I mean, not that I really do much. 100 is not super important, but it's the resources. So I built here up the port and the airfield. So I have a big airfield and base in the future. Also resources, I can ship them always to Java, and from Java I can consume them, or I simply ship them from Surabaya then to Singapore, and from Singapore they're back in Korea, so the loop is closed. But this is the reason why I built this base. It's simply because of this dot base. The biggest issue is really purse. I have the fuel, but I don't have the supplies, and I have for many days already no supplies here. And supplies are coming, but this is only emergency shipping. This is just barely enough to change the status from emergency to warning. Then I need more supplies. But where I get my supplies, yeah. Java is also just okay, and I have still here the Siege of Bendoing I must finish. Palmbang have not enough to supplies to really export them. I just emptied Balikpapan. Tarakan has nothing left. Inmiri always asks for supplies because there's still some oil field to repair. And I still have not enough crude oil production, map-wise. So, goody. What I really guess, or what I will do is now, I can more or less say that nothing can come east coast of Australia. So if Xargun won't come and fight or must, or Australia need fuel. There's no fuel coming. No fuel, no ship traffic. Let's say this. So there must be fuel come to Australia. So, and because I know that fuel and shipping can only come from the west coast, and because I know this is a box and the box is really not possible to enter, I know there must be something coming here. So this is why I send all my submarines back to Perth, repair them, refuel them. Then I can make here 3-4 layer deep submarine base for task force. Then I have my Navy search running out of this location. I can go 20, later I can go even 24 deep with a new aircraft coming. So this submarine is, but if I say here is my last submarine, maybe like here, is a range of 25. So this means if here is submarines and here is Navy search, I must detect the enemy or the allies. And then I can come out of Perth or some other location and then act on them. Means I don't must stay here in the open and be surprised myself. Of course, it's still possible that wherever I park my fleet, the allies surprise me. So I'm not so sure if I will stay in Perth, but I would say, why not? In Perth, I have a big port. I must build it up, but I can build here a big port. Port of 7 is big enough. I have a big airfield. I can throw here a lot of mines in the water. So if I can have here enough cap fighters, I mean at least some, I can bring here in more if I want. It's the same like Colombo, let's say this. It's possible for the allies to attack. It is frontline, but here I guess will be for sure some activity, and it's also merchant shipping. So it's not that I must sink the enemy carriers or battleships or whatever. If I sink the enemy convoys with fuel or supplies coming in and sink them, Australia is still starving. And without supplies and fuel, maybe there's no allied attack at Australia. So long I can intercept all shipping or most of the shipping, no offensive of the allies in Australia, and I hold the base or the bases, it means I can send more resources back from Australia to Japan. Good. The rest is only picking up here. But this is roughly the idea. Using submarines at frontline, Navy search to detect, and then react. But up to now I have here only two, the Unio and Hirio carrier, so there's a limitation in my strike power. So if there's allied carrier, 2 or 3 of them, I cannot attack them. But this is why I will more or less ship my other carriers from Cylon, and I have here Shukaku and Zuikaku I could send. Problem is, they need the upgrade in June, and it is already June, and this is important upgrade. You need this because this is the only 2 carriers you get radar in 42, and this is air radar, so it's super important. So I won't normally send this task force back to Singapore, and then I call maybe the battleships and heavy cruisers and light cruisers I could maybe use in Perth. But the Shukaku and Zuikaku need to be in the shipyard, and the escort carrier I need to stay here to transfer my cargo and destroyer to Colombo to protect against airstrikes, and in the future any supply, fuel, whatever I ship to or from Cylon need an escort carrier. There can be always airstrikes coming out of Madras, or maybe even out of this area. So it's not likely because I control here these 2 bases and I have local cap here. But if I'm here somewhere in the open sea, I need an escort carrier. It's too risky to have something like a Catalina strike or something, and then you have no cap at all. This was dangerous. So an escort carrier is okay for this. This is built why you have escort carriers. So I don't get really carrier support out of Colombo. What I will get is Akagi, because Akagi is coming back from Japan because I changed some air wings. So I get this carrier I can send to help in Perth. And this is also why I more or less call back my carrier from the Pacific side. I have here the 2 other smaller carriers, but 2 and 3 support light carriers. One is here coming back. No, this is an escort carrier. Maybe this I keep here. But I think I have the other light carrier here. So this is what I have. I can maybe send to help in Perth because I simply guess in Perth is an extract. Here in Southeast in the Pacific, I don't really need carrier support so much more. I took all the bases, and if the allied carriers are striking now here, I simply use my bases, my land bases, to fight them. And if I lose this kind of bases, it doesn't really matter too much. I took them only to have a buffer, nothing more. So I fight for every base more or less, but I don't need to waste in risky carriers. This is only strategic positions. There's no resources. Nothing really for me to gain or hold to feed the industry. Good. So this is roughly the overview of carrier support, I think, in the future. I will focus for this convoy interception. So this is more or less like Battle of Britain. Only the Germans had only submarines and lacked the carrier navy support. But here this is now the same. British allied ships are coming and reach locations, the ports of Australia, not the ports of London or Liverpool or something like this. Liverpool? Yeah, doesn't matter. So I have air power, submarines, and navy power. And we're equally strong, I would say. It's not that I'm better, because I have 3 carriers out of action. Chukaku, Zuikaku, Kaga. All are out of action, at least for 1 or 2 months. And, yeah. The only air support, okay, I can close this topic. I keep 2 battle cruisers here, plus the little destroyers. Because battle cruisers are fast, so I think for this kind of Pacific war, I think faster ships are important. But because there are always risk of dive bombers or Catalinas, at least soon much more, I will give a little more protection to this task force. But this is all I can really offer them is a scout cruiser. And these scout cruisers have roof fighters. I can upgrade them, so I can get here 26 in total. This is why we change over the size. And then maybe this 2 battle cruisers plus 4 destroyers and the scout cruiser have enough firepower to deal with everything what is not a battleship or a heavy wheel fleet carrier. The roof fighters will fight against Catalinas and unescorted dive bombers. But if there's of course a 100th airplane strike coming, then my roof fighters will have trouble. But it's maybe still the difference between I lose the whole task force or lose only 1 or 2 ships. And the problem is also that if you have a combat task force, you cannot have a carrier inside. Or if you try to do it with a carrier, the carrier is always super easy be killed. So I cannot have a combat surface task force with carrier direct support, and I must always follow. And this is risky because sometimes the game is messing up stuff. So I don't really like it too much in the long run. So this is why I go with a scout cruiser support. The scout cruiser can be part of the task force, and the scout cruiser is still a light cruiser, and it's fighting like a real ship, not like a carrier. Good, New Zealand is, I would say, on the way. I still must take the base. It's a question of time. I have one division is already loaded up. A second division I just start loading today, so I need some days to unload them, but I think I can bring here all 4 divisions and simply crash Nelson. Once Nelson is done, I think I need only 1 division to cross the river to take Churchtown. Once I take Churchtown, I can transfer this division here down and then walk here, or because the road is so... I can also walk here down. Maybe I can walk on the highway here. Nomaya is fine. Like I said, I create this task force. This is a big reinforcements for Perth, more or less. I hope this is enough. It's not that I really have too many aircraft then, but I cannot change it. I have at least skillful pilots. Issue is for... yeah, I can also talk this. New Zealand have really an issue of with supplies, and once I finish the supply issue, I run out of fuel. At least Wellington have still some fuel left. The problem is, without fuel, I have here the heavy industry, only 9 here. But here is 20 heavy industry, and this are shut off already for, I think, 3-4 days. But the oil is coming. But once the oil is here, then my ships will ask for fuel. So fuel is really an issue, and I have simply not enough tankers to transport the fuel I have. I just arrive somewhere, them unload all the fuel, and then other bases ask for fuel already. I left, and 1 week later it's empty again. I ship 100,000 fuel or more to Nomaya, but I'm already down to 50,000. And I can only ship from the big fuel centers like Balikpapan or Palembang or wherever I get my fuel to some big ports and unload them. Then I still must ship it from this major ports to other second tier locations. And I don't have the numbers of tankers for this, so that is really issue. If you conquer so much, so far away from everywhere, its logistic is really complicated. Good. And last topic is Australia East Coast, and there's tons of resources. This center is alone 400, and I have stockpiling here more resources faster than I can sometimes ship them out. I mean, I was able to get some resources out, but still there's more resources coming here, and that I really won't get rid of. Good. It's enough first. I will make a second video about tracker, then we can check some more numbers, I think. Okay, see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.